What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers. We have a UFC Vegas 54. We have Jan Blachowicz going against Aleksader Rakic. Should be a pretty fun card. Looks like we have 11 fights at the moment. And I am here, as always, with Uncle Weezy. Weezy, you looking forward to the card today?
I am. We were just talking about this card backstage before we went live here, and, it's a good one. There's some good fights here. High-action fights. Some fights that are likely to finish inside the distance. Some good women's fights on this card. You got the Jandiroba Hill fight, the Araújo Lee fight, the Chookagian Ribas fight. Very interesting card here. There's only 11 fights this week. We had 15 last week. And I like these 11 fight, cards. Less work for us to do. We can get deeper into each fight and really dig in and find the necessary spots that it's going to take us to be able to stack those cash tickets like flapjacks come Saturday.
Yep, for sure. Cannot wait to get into it. And then how was your night last night?
Good night. I was up 2 units. The return on investment was just kind of okay, like a 25% ROI, somewhere in that neighborhood, I think. Lost bets on Chaos Williams, very close fight, could have went either way. Lost a parlay because Clayton Rodriguez lost that decision to CJ Vergara. I had Clayton parlayed with Lupi Godinez, who looked amazing. And I had the fight doesn't go to decision for Blagoy Ivanov and De Lima. I was surprised that went the whole 3 rounds. But they were swinging. So, credit to them. They were trying to finish each other. Just couldn't get it done. And I had a very small bet on Macy Chiasson by decision at plus 380. Another small bet on Carla Esparza, round 4-5 or by decision at plus 220. Cashed both of those bets. Could have went either way. So I had some bets that went against me because in close fights, and I had some bets that went for me in close fights. Up 2 units. Tracy Cortez was Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I had that by decision as the bet. So I was really glad to get out of the 1 week slump that I was in, and we've started a new streak. Tracy got the job done, won a clear decision. On to the next, though, man. 11 fights to break down. One of these is one that was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago. So we've got to dig into these fights. Looking forward to doing it.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I was actually not able to watch the first, 10 or 11 fights. I was able to watch later in the main card. But this was the lightest card in terms of the number of bets I had all year. I did have a pretty heavy play on the Cerrone-Lozon fight. Doesn't go to decision. I was really upset to hear that fight was off. Other than that, I had the Brandon Royval Schnell under 2.5, had 2 units on that, plus 120. And then I had the Oliveira Gaethje under 3.5 rounds, 5 units, my first max bet of the year, minus 240. And I had a Melissa Gatto scorecards equals no action. So that pushed. So I was 2-0 on bets, plus 4.48 units. Just, short and sweet and, felt pretty good. But I felt like I should have been heavier on the violence in the Gaethje Oliveira. I knew from when it first started that fight was going to end pretty soon, and it did, and it was fun. I enjoyed that fight quite a bit. Gaethje knocked down Oliveira twice. Oliveira ended up getting back up, and then he knocked down Gaethje, submitted him. Just a crazy main event for as long as it lasted. It felt like it lasted a lot longer than it actually did. But great card last night from what I did see outside of the Rose fight. My goodness, don't know what happened there. But the main event I thought made up for that for sure, because the main event was fire, and I enjoyed that a lot. But we have a pretty good card here. Like you said, Weezy, 11 fights. Cannot wait to break it all down. Before we do so, let us shout at the chat. And by the way, we had Lou. A shout to Lou. He made a dono earlier in the day. I don't know what it is with StreamYard, but sometimes if you comment like early in the day, they take it off. So Lou, I saw your comment. I saw your donation. Appreciate you a ton. But let's shout out the chat here. We have Jeremiah hanging out. Lorenzo, Mushroom, Spud. We have Boston Nick. What is up, Boston Nick? How you doing? Gerald, Brandon. We got Lou Betcha. Shout out to Lou for filling in for me last week. Zach hanging out. Jason, Philip, Mark, Victor, Gaming Wolf hanging out as well. Glenn, Take No Prisoners, Mr. D. We have a Handicap UFC, Effie MMA, the DFS Whisperers, Charles in the chat as well, Buffalo on the beat. And see if I missed anybody. Carthos hanging out. Hopefully I pronounced that right. DXJC as always. And I think I got about everybody. Mushroom in there as well. Thank you all for hanging out. Hit that like button. And what is up, Lou? We did see your comment earlier. But hit the like button, subscribe here to Post Sports Radio. And I say we dig right into it, starting with the very first fight of the night. And we have Nick Maximov going against Andre Petroski. We have Maximov, who is 24 years old, 6 foot with a 76-inch reach, going against Petroski, who is 30 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. So it's going to be Maximov that is 3 or 6 years younger, and it's going to be Maximov that's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage as well. Maximov is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Cody Brundage. Prior to that, he did have a win on the Contender Series at heavyweight, won that fight by decision, beat Brundage by decision, and then beat Punahele Soriano by decision as well. As far as Petroski, is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut on against Michael Gilmore, won that fight by, I believe it was a 3rd-round KO, and then had a 3rd-round submission against Yao Zhang Hu. And this was a guy that was on the Ultimate Fighter and did fall short on that. But yeah, he's been looking good so far in the UFC. But, this is going to be a pretty significant step in competition from, Michael Gilmore and Yao Zhang Hu, who are both no longer in the UFC, I don't believe. So, yeah, interesting fight here, Weezy. We have both guys that are very good wrestlers. We have both guys that are very good strikers, or not very good strikers, very good grapplers. And we have both guys that are not the best strikers. So what do you think about this one, Weezy?
Yeah, you look at what these guys do, and it's a very similar situation here. It's Petroski who's older, but they both have 8 fights. They both have exactly 63 minutes of cage time. They've both been pros about 3.5 years. And Maximov, 3 UFC level fights, Petroski 2. 28 minutes in the UFC cage for Petroski, 45 for Maximov. Maximov has finished almost as many fights by submission as he has by knockout, and it's the same thing for Petroski. Both of these guys are finishing pretty well. 5 of 8 for Maximov and 100% finish rate for Petroski, and Petroski has been finished in his only loss. Bootsy, wow. Well, this is going to be an interesting one, all right? So neither one of these guys are great strikers, and both of these guys are really good wrestlers and really good grapplers. We got a guy in Petroski who I believe has a D1 wrestling background. Am I right about that, Brady?
I think it might be D1. I kind of think it's D2 though, but regardless.
Okay, but Maximov's D3, I believe. Both, really good wrestlers, really good grapplers here. Neither one of these guys has landed a knockdown yet. Neither one of these guys has been knocked down. In Maximov's 3 fights, he's showing 39% striking defense. And Petroski's showing 52, which isn't great either, but it's a hell of a lot better than 39%. Petroski, landing 2.2 more significant strikes per minute than he's absorbing. But to be fair, he's fighting Michael Gilmore and Hu Yazong. I'm surprised you didn't say that bum Hu Yazong, which is usually your nickname.
It's a given at this point.
But, okay. I mean, this is weird. This line has gotten so blown out, it's not even funny. I mean, you can make a case that Maximov didn't even beat Punahele Soriano. And I had a bet on Maximov, and I cashed that bet against Puna because I knew that he was going to wrestle the shit out of Puna, and we hadn't seen anybody do that to Puna yet. But this is exactly what Petroski wants. Petroski wants a grappling battle, and he's pretty much just as good down there as Nick Maximov is. So I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. I think it's going to be very close. But there are a couple things that are, in my opinion, in Maximov's favor. Dude's got a really good chin. He's been hit square by some really big dudes and walked right through it. So he's very tough. He's got an excellent gas tank, in my opinion, better than Petroski's. And he's 6 years younger. So I'm definitely leaning Maximov to win this fight. But why don't you tell him what the line is, Brady?
Yeah. We talked about it a little last night, and it's gotten wider. So Maximov opened up -250, and he is currently -475. And Petroski opened up +210, and he is currently +375. So huge favor of Maximov, and I believe, I think that's the biggest favor on the card, and I think it's the biggest favor on the card by a mile.
Yeah, he is. And it's just bizarre. Last night, after the card, I started looking into this card like I do every late Saturday night, get ready for Stack Diggers on Sunday. And I saw that Petroski was +285. And I said to myself, oh, it's not going any further than that. So I just put a unit on it saying I thought that he would definitely come back in and this would get closer to, Maximov -200, which is kind of like where I think he belongs here. Maybe -200, maybe -175. I think that these guys have got a very similar skill set to each other. But boy, was I wrong. And now I'm wearing that plus 275, Brady, as I think I could get Maximov at like plus 335 right now. So I'm not happy with what I did last night, putting that bet down, because I could get him at plus 375 right now. My God. Yeah. And the money is still coming in on Maximov. This is bonkers to me. I don't think Maximov should even be better than minus 200 here. I think Petroski's got the same skill set as him, but it's going to be a really good fight. I'm picking Maximov to win it, but this line has gotten completely out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird fight. I'm picking Maximov as well. And for the biggest reason for me would be cardio. But even then, like, we thought Petroski's had poor cardio, and I think he does, but he's still going out there. He's having success in the third round. I mean, finishing Gilmore in that third round, finishing that bum, Yajong Hu, in the third round as well. So it's not like he's completely going out there and just, laying down after the first round. So you got to like that. But yeah, Maximov, this guy is just like relentless. I don't think we've seen somebody. Bootsy loving Petroski there.
Yeah,
but I don't
he is, man. He is. Wow.
Somebody like this relentless for takedowns. I mean, Maximov went out there, took down Punahele Soriano. Want to know what's funny about that fight? Soriano, prior to that fight, I believe he had a 100% takedown defense. Guess what Soriano's takedown defense is now?
What is it?
It's 35%.
Wow.
My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, and Maximov, it's you love betting on wrestlers, but you even love more betting on wrestlers that commit to the wrestling. And 36 takedown attempts in only 3 UFC fights, in only 45 minutes of cage time. And if you think about it, he's in control time positions for or against 80% of those 45 minutes. So it's almost like in 9 minutes, he's attempted 36 takedowns. Because if you subtract the control time positions, you can't really, you can go for takedowns in the clinch control, but not in ground control positions. And he's on the ground almost all the time. So, yeah, the guy is constantly shooting, constantly committing to the wrestling.
Yeah, and there's a question mark with Soriano's takedown defense because, yes, it was 100%, but at that point, he only defended like 1 takedown. Petroski's defended 0 takedowns yet, so how good is his takedown defense? I'm not so sure, but what we do know is Maximov is going to have the cardio advantage. What we do know is Maximov's going to go out here and attempt 1,000,000 takedowns and do it for 15 minutes. So I think you got to lean Maximov, but like somebody in the chat said, what happens if this fight stays standing at that point? I've seen better things from Petroski. He was going out there outlanding, again, that bum, Yajong Hu, but you take a look at Maximov, and Maximov, I counted it up, in a total of 45 minutes of fight time, he has landed like 25 distance strikes. So we have not seen much striking, if any at all, of Maximov. So, yeah, weird fight. I think Maximov should win, but yeah, the line, man, minus 475 now for Maximov, plus 375 for Petroski there. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 160. The under 2.5 plus 120. The fight goes to decision is minus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 105. Any thoughts on the props here?
Maximov is a pretty good finisher, and Petroski's, in all 8 of his professional fights, they've all ended inside the distance. So this is a killer be killed fighter that we have here in Petroski. Now, I could see this becoming a greasy wrestling match. And sometimes when you have these really horrible fights where you have 2 grapplers and they wind up boxing for 3 rounds, that's another possibility here. I think that the fight doesn't go, though, for a 185-pound fight at plus money is very interesting because these things are finishing inside the distance about 59% of the time.
Sounds good to me. And Glenn liking that over 1.5 rounds. Looks like it is out. It's on 5 dimes and it is minus 285. So it probably does hit, but you are paying a lot of chalk for that, Glenn. All right. Let us keep moving on to the next fight. We have a fight that we were supposed to see like 2 weeks ago. We have Carlos Candelario going against Tatsuro Tara. We have Candelario, who is 30 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. Tara, he is 22 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Tara, 8 years younger, and it's going to be Tara that's going to be at a 1-inch height disadvantage, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Carlos Candelario has 2 fights on the Contender Series. He won 1, and then he lost 1, and then he was also the first fighter that ever lost on the Contender Series and still got that contract. Tara is making his debut, And yeah, we talked about this one before, Weezy. I was on the Tara side. I did not bet it. I did not really like the line. I know Candelario was a very popular dog 2 weeks ago. I'm assuming he's going to be a very popular dog again. But there's just a lot of question marks. We have Tara. I believe he's not only making his debut in the UFC, but he's making his debut in the United States. You don't like to see that. This guy's very, very young. He hasn't fought the best competition in the world. So just a lot of red flags on the Tara side, especially when we're bringing up the price tag of like over minus 200. So enough for me to stay away. But, I like what I see from the guy. I think the striking is okay. But what impressed me the most was the grappling. And that's where Candelario has kind of struggled a little bit thus far, getting taken down, 47% takedown defense thus far, in the Contender Series fights. And the cardio of Candelario is not that great as well. So I do like Tara, but again, red flags, making his debut in the U.S., very young guy, not the best competition. Candelario probably has fought the better competition. So I just can't get to like the minus 200 or whatever he is there. But as far as picking a winner, I do slightly lean to the Tara side. And I think we had this fight going the distance as well on probability. Is that right? A couple weeks ago?
Yeah, we had that one going the distance. We like the over 2.5 for it, even a little bit better. But yeah, this is kind of a striker versus grappler matchup. I mean, Candelario is pretty good on the ground, but yeah, Tyra does his best work grappling, and Candelario is going to be doing his best work with his hands in this particular fight because Tyra's striking is just okay. Yeah, I mean, he's 22 years old, but he's fought some veterans. He's beaten some guys in Shooto who have like almost 50 professional fights, so that's saying something. It's just, we don't really know what the level of competition is there in comparison to what he's going to see. Even at the low level of the flyweight division in the UFC is going to be probably a big step up from the guys that he was fighting in Japan. We already talked about this. Candelario's a former Golden Gloves guy. He's easy to take down. He's only stopped 11 of 23 takedown attempts. His takedown defense below 50% at 47.83%. He's getting taken down 6 times per 15 minutes. And the control time numbers aren't right because his first fight didn't have control time stats available for it. So he's been controlled for a lot of his UFC career. And he's just giving up a ton of takedowns. He's getting some himself, but if Tyra gets this fight to the ground, he can win minutes there and he can finish the fight there with his submissions. So Tyra's really good at taking people's backs. I think that's exactly what he's going to be trying to do with Candelario. We're just going to see how he handles the first fight outside of the outside of Japan, how he handles, debuting in the UFC at the tender young age of 22, how he handles fighting somebody as well-rounded as Candelario. So Candelario's got good ground and pound if he gets on top too. So I'm with you, Brady, though. I think that Tyra probably wins this fight more times than he doesn't. He should win it by decision, in my opinion. Because Candelario has been put in some bad spots by some really dangerous guys like Ronaldo Candido on the Contender Series. Gave up his back, wound up in some bad spots with the guy who's known for being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, the guy who's teaching Jiu-Jitsu to Jose Aldo. So I do believe that Candelario's live in this fight. The line is too wide, in my opinion, but I'm still going with Tyra to win it by decision.
Sounds good. I'm right there with you. And we got Tajik, the GOAT, hanging out in the chat, and he gave a donut here. Sharing is caring. Thank you both for the great content, sharing knowledge and positive vibes. Sincerely, the GOAT. Thank you, GOAT, so much. And then we have another donation from the GOAT saying hello to Spud. Shout out to Spud in the chat and shout out to Tajik. And then we got another dono from Tajik saying hello, Glenbot. Thank you, Tajik, for the $4.99. And then we have one more from the GOAT, Tajik. Getting a winky face there. Thank you, Tajik, for hanging out. This is why you are indeed the GOAT. But yeah, we'll take a look at the line here. We have Tara opened up as a minus 250, is now minus 230, and Candelario opened up plus 210. He's now plus 195. The over-under is set at 2.5. The over 2.5 minus 125, and the under 2.5 minus 105. The fight goes to decision plus 115. And the fight doesn't go to decision, minus 155. Any thoughts on the lines here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to stay away. In terms of the props, we talked about it the week before. We kind of like that over 2.5. The fight doesn't go at minus 140, is overpriced by 18.5% if you compare it to the 39.8% finish rate of the flyweight division. So, you're paying 58% in implied probability at fight doesn't go to decision at minus 140 when these fights are only finishing at a 39.8% clip. So fight goes at even money plus 100. It's showing a little bit of value there. So that's probably the way that I'd lean.
Yep, sounds good. I'm right there with you. Let us keep moving on to the next fight. And we have Virna Jandiroba going against Angela Hill. We have Jandiroba, 33 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Angela Hill, 37 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Virna, she's going to be the younger fighter by 4 years, and she's going to be the more handsome fighter as well. We have Virna Jandiroba, who is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She had a decision loss her last time out to Amanda Ribas. Prior to that, she did get that knockout against Kanako Murata when I had the submission prop. She broke her arm, and it was a doctor stoppage there. Prior to that, she did lose a decision to Mackenzie Dern. And prior to that, she did submit both Felice Herrig and Mallory Martin. As far as Angela Hill, she is 1-4 in her last 5 fights. She had that split decision loss against Claudia Gadelha, very close fight. She had the split decision loss against Michelle Watterson, very close fight. She had the decision win against Ashley Yoder, a decision loss against Torres, and then a split decision loss against Amanda Lemos, which was a very close fight as well. So, yeah, this is a pretty tricky fight for me. Angela Hill is somebody that has improved her takedown defense throughout the years, and I kind of think that's going to come in play here. And it's currently sitting at 78%. I kind of see it as if Virna Jandiroba is not able to get this fight down to the mat, like it's going to be Angela Hill all day on the feet. And I do think Virna has improved her striking quite a bit, from when we first see her in the UFC till now. But, her striking's looking good against Mackenzie Dern, Kanako Murata, even against Amanda Ribas. Ribas was having a ton of success on the feet there. But yeah, I think it's going to be Hill all day on the feet. It's just if this fight hits the mat and if Virna can get on top of Hill, like Virna's ground game is no joke at all. So this is a fight where I'm going to look at the Virna submission prop. I think if this hits the mat, she's very live for a submission, but I think Hill's very live to stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, and outpoint Virna as well. So kind of a tricky fight to call here, Weezy. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw the line of this fight. So yeah, Hill older, but other than that, same size, same reach, both orthodox fighters. Hill got 4 more professional fights, but over 150 more minutes in the pro cage. But the length of the career is pretty much the same. Angela Hill, 13 more fights at the UFC level and 200 more minutes in the UFC cage. When we look at finish rates, it's Virna who's the much better finisher here at 82%. And Virna has finished all 3 of her UFC wins inside the distance. For Hill, it's 2 of 8 wins have been finished inside the distance. One of them was a cut stoppage against Carnelossi in the 3rd round. That was a close fight. And she's won 38% of her 13 wins are inside the distance by knockout as a pro. Angela Hill, very durable, only been finished twice in the UFC in her 11 losses, and they were both by submission, though. And Virna has never been finished in her 3 losses. So this is clear striker versus grappler. You got somebody in Hill who's a lot more accurate, who throws a lot more variety of strikes. She moves better. Virna Jandiroba just throws the straight 1-2, and that's it, over and over and over and over and over again. She's very predictable on the feet. Angela Hill will be much less predictable, and she'll also be the one that's throwing the more variety of strikes and moving a lot more on the outside, I believe. But obviously, when it comes to the grappling, Virna is on a complete another level here. 9 takedowns in 6 fights. That's over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. Her fights are taking place in control time positions about 43% of the time, while for Angela Hill, it's about 29% of the time. So, Angela's going to want to keep this fight standing as long as possible. Virna does have some power for this weight class, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't think that's what's going to come into a play here. I really do believe that if Virna doesn't get this fight to the ground, she's going to lose. She just can't really consistently win minutes on the feet here. It's just something that's not part of what she's doing. Both of these ladies are fighting really good competition. 2.17 ratio for Virna Jandiroba overall, 1.13 for Hill. Hill fighting the more experienced brand of competition. And the wins are better for Jandiroba as well, as she's got a 1.6 ratio in her wins compared to 0.86 in Angela Hill's wins. So Angela Hill, in her 8 wins, is beating fighters that have a losing record on average. So, but she's been in a lot of close fights, and she's had a lot of split decisions go the other way against really good fighters. So right now, it just feels like Angela Hill is being disrespected by the bookies here. She's plus money, and she's getting close to plus 150 here against Virna. And I just don't think that there's enough evidence to suggest that Virna can win enough minutes on the ground here to win a decision. If she does get it to the ground, though, she's going to be very live to lock up a submission.
Yeah, Virna's like a wizard on the mat. So, I mean, maybe that's why she's a favorite, but my goodness, like she has to take her down and get her down. And like we were talking about, like Hill's takedown defense is much, much improved. So, yeah, when I saw the line as well, I was like shocked. I thought it was going to be the complete opposite. I thought Hill was going to be a favorite, and then I thought Virna's going to be the dog here. But we have Virna. She opened up minus 140. She's currently minus 160. Hill opened up plus 120. She is currently plus 140. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 240. The under 2.5 plus 190. The fight goes minus 215, and the fight doesn't go as plus 165. So, yeah, I mean, that line, kind of surprises me. I think if I like Virna Jandiroba, I'm taking her to win inside the distance, which is plus 285 right now, which is kind of nuts to me. And then if you like Angela Hill, Hill money line is a dog, but Angela Hill by decision, not sure what that is, like plus 215. But yeah, I'm kind of like it's got to be dog or pass for me. I mean, I think Hill can stuff the takedowns, and if she does stuff the takedowns, and if this is on the feet for the majority of the time, you got to believe Angela Hill is going to be outstriking Virna pretty clearly there. But at the same time, if Virna is able to get this fight down to the mat, it could only potentially take one takedown to find that sub. So I think there's a couple different ways you can play this fight, but as far as a straight pick, I might lean with a dog here. How about you, Weezy? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Angela Hill here, but for gambling wise, this has got my attention. Like you said, you could play Virna by decision, you could play her by submission. I think submission is her best path, but if Virna gets 2 takedowns, chances are, you're not getting up if you're underneath this woman, because you're going to have to be so defensively responsible. If Virna gets on top of you, it's going to be very scary. And even Virna does seem like the type of girl who will pull guard. She pulled guard against Mackenzie Dern. You remember that?
Yeah.
So, Virna's tricky. It's a tricky matchup. And like a couple people I saw in the chat were saying earlier, dude, Angela Hill does have a tendency of getting screwed over by the judges. And, and the judges can get lost in Virna Jandiroba's eyes. She's very handsome, beautiful head of hair. And it could happen again, man. I mean, who we crapping? So it's a tricky fight. I'm gonna have bets on this fight, because I see a couple of different angles here. But at this point, it just feels like Virna should not be minus 170 against Angela Hill. Angela Hill has proven herself against too many fighters at this point. 19 UFC fights, 263 minutes in the UFC cage. She's seen it all.
Yeah, I mean, if we were talking like who's more handsome, like at that point, Virna could be minus 160, minus 200 even. But
yeah,
this is a fight, and I think it probably should be closer to a pick'em there. But I do want to shout out the GOAT again. He asked anybody to pick a number between 1 to 100. Tim chose 36, and he says 36 it is, Tim. Shout out to the king of parlay, Tim Troiano. Shout out to Tim. Shout out to Tajik for the dono. Shout out to both you guys. And then Tajik with another $4.99. Tajik is lighting it up. Appreciate you, Tajik. And again, this is why you are indeed the GOAT. But yep, let's move on to the next fight. And we have, oh boy, should I bring it up, Weezy? I think you're muted.
You have to bring it up. You have to, dude. There's no question about it. You have to bring it up.
I think I should bring it up, guys, and I'm going to bring it up. We have the 1-800 gambler ticker. I mean, this is the definition of a 1-800 gambler fight. Michael Johnson is the definition of a 1-800 gambler fighter. If you bet this fighter throughout the years, you've probably lost a couple years off your life, because my goodness, and we'll talk about why. We have Michael Johnson. He is 35 years old. Weezy, what's that height there?
3,100. You know what? Maybe that might not be right. Yeah. Let me go check that one out, man.
We'll say five. Take a get for like 5'10".
Yeah, so I'll find it for you because
All right,
I've got it in the advanced stats. I don't know why that went wrong though. That went horribly wrong.
I mean, it was close, but we have Michael Johnson with that 73-inch reach. We have Allan Patrick, who is 38 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. So we'll take a look at Michael Johnson. He has 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Had that decision win against Artem Lobov. Had that knockout loss against Josh Emmett. That decision loss against Stevie Ray. That submission loss against Thiago Moises. That decision loss against Clay Guida. Allan Patrick, he has 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Stevie Ray. Decision win against Damir Hadzovic, knockout loss to Scott Holtzman, decision loss to Bobby Green, and then a no contest against Mason Jones. So this is a mess. This is a complete mess from really both sides. Like on paper, you got to think this is such a great matchup for Michael Johnson, but with Michael Johnson, he always finds a way to lose the fight. Like there's multiple examples where he's out there, he is winning the fight, he is looking very good, and then he just falls off the cliff. Like as of recent against Josh Emmett, I thought he was up 2 rounds there, goes in the third, fight's almost over. There's like 40 seconds left. He gets knocked out. Against Stevie Ray, he was looking really good early. Stevie Ray ends up coming back and beating him and winning that decision against Johnson. Against Thiago Moises, Johnson outlands Moises 27-1. 27-1. Moises comes out in the second round and gets an ankle lock early on. And then loses the Clay Guida as well as a decent-sized favorite. I mean, you can't trust Michael Johnson. And then you have Allan Patrick on the other side, who you take a look at him like earlier in his career, and he's doing really good things. He had that fight against Damian Brown where he took him down 5 times, had that fight against Stevie Ray where he took him down 5 times, had that fight against Damir Hadzovic where he took him down 9 times. That was back in 2018. And since then, he's just looked terrible. Against Scott Holtzman, was not able to get those takedowns. Holtzman ended up knocking him out. Against Bobby Green, it was actually Bobby Green that took him down 4 times. I was not expecting that. And then against Mason Jones beat him up very, very bad. I had a big bet on Mason Jones that night, and that hurts. And then you had that, I think it was like an eye poke, and Allan Patrick won it out of there. They rematched the fight, and I believe Allan Patrick pulled out. But yeah, I mean, this is a fight where I feel like Michael Johnson should win, but I feel like I'm saying Michael Johnson should win this fight a lot, and then he ends up losing. So Weezy, what do you think about this one here?
Yeah, I think that my money won't be going anywhere near this fight. There's no chance of that happening. You know, when you get to these situations where you, like, and we saw it a couple times on the last card, it's like, which one of these guys is more washed? And I'm going to bet on the guy that's less washed. And when you do that, you're not really looking at the stylistic sides of the fight, and you're not really looking at, you know, who's the better fighter here. And it's always hard to figure out. With a fighter, the archetype of Michael Johnson, right? This guy that wins the fight right up until the point where he finds a way to lose. That's what he does. I mean, like, that's like the best way to describe Michael Johnson is he digs deep and he finds ways to lose. And they are spectacular. They're fast. They're unique. And it catches you by surprise every time. It's like a great television show, you know? You don't really know what's going to happen, but you know that it's going to be spectacular at the end of the day. And the ways that Michael Johnson finds to lose are indeed spectacular. And Patrick kind of finds ways to win. And, you know, and like the one thing about Patrick that I'll say is, you know, he's done a good job of controlling his opponents, almost 40% control time over a 9-fight sample size. And when he was clearly outmatched against Mason Jones, he took a veteran way out of that fight, man. My eye. He got poked in the eye, you know, and then he got the no contest. He was getting his ass shaved in there. But at least he had the wherewithal to understand, I'm going to make a veteran decision right here that absolutely forwards my career. And he got more money than he would have had he not done that. So good for Alan Patrick there. You know, it's Johnson who's fought the better brand of competition. He's beaten the better brand of competition. He's got better striking numbers. He's been controlled 18% of his UFC career, showing 77.5% takedown defense. You know, I mean, maybe he wins this fight, but like I say, man, I'm not putting my money anywhere near it. anywhere near it, good night. 1-800-GAMBLER. Don't let me catch you betting on this fight, you guys. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, I could see it now. I lay minus 130 on Michael Johnson. I'm feeling great all week. I'm watching the fight. Hey, I'm feeling great. You know, he's stuffing the takedowns of Allan Patrick. He's piecing him up on the feet. Oh no, it's the third round. Patrick gets him down. Michael Johnson gets subbed, and now there's a hole in my TV. There's a hole in my wall, and I have lost 7 years off my life thanks to Michael Johnson. So yeah, this is about as 1-800-GAMBLER as you can get. I mean, it's terrible, and we have a pretty closely lined fight. We have Michael Johnson opening up minus 140, he's now minus 130. Allan Patrick opening up plus 120, he's now plus 110. I couldn't imagine anybody would bet on this fight, Weezy, and I don't think people should really.
People will be. I mean, I just don't. I don't see a reason to do it. I won't be doing it. Yeah, it's on to the next, man.
I mean, even like the props, like fight goes to decision minus 155, fight doesn't go to decision plus 115. I mean, I just don't have any interest in laying a dime on this bet. I mean, on this fight.
Yeah, you and me both, man. No chance I'm touching it. I didn't even look at the lines, nor will I.
Yeah, for sure. And we got the GOAT again, the GOAT, Tajik. You guys are the GOATs of MMA YouTube. Let's watch the show now. No distractions. We'll appreciate the distractions, Tajik. We love them. And thank you so much. And then we have Mystic Lista as well, saying Cortez's ass shaving was a nail biter, but accurate. Cash my UD bet. Thanks, boy. Yeah, shout out to Uncle Weezy for that one. He was all over Tracy Cortez, and he was on that decision prop as well. So thank you, Mystic Lista, for that. And then we got another dono from Level Up saying, oi, appreciate the hard work, boys. We appreciate you, Level Up, and we appreciate all of you for hanging out. All 173 of you in here as well. So I say we keep moving on to the next fight. And we have Viviane Araújo going against Andrea Lee. We have Araújo, who is 35 years old, 5'4", with a 68-inch reach. Andrea Lee, 33 years old, 5'6", with a 69-inch reach. It's going to be Lee who's going to have a 2-inch height advantage. She's going to be 2 years younger, and she's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. So tail the tape advantage for Andrea Lee here. Araújo, she has 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Decision win against Alexis Davis. Decision loss against Jessica Ai. A decision win against Montana De La Rosa. Decision win against Roxanne Modafferi, and then a decision loss against Katlyn Chookagian. As far as Andrea Lee, 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Split decision loss against Joanne Calderwood. Split decision loss against Lauren Murphy. Both those are very close fights. A decision loss to Roxanne Modafferi, another close fight there. And then a submission win against Antonina Shevchenko, and a knockout win against Cynthia Calvillo, the best we've ever seen Andrea Lee. So this is a pretty close fight, pretty competitive fight. Weezy, what do you think about this one here?
Yeah, I like this fight. You know, Andrea Lee's on a heater, and Viviane has really been consistent for her entire time in the UFC. We know what to expect of her. You know, with Viviane, you're going to get someone that kind of walks forward, and with Andrea Lee, you get really somebody that's really well rounded and throwing a ton of volume, landing a bunch more than her opponents do. It's a great fight. So Andrea Lee, 5 more professional fights, about 80 more minutes in the pro cage, and about a year more as a mixed martial artist. 2 more UFC level fights as well, and about 25 more minutes in the UFC cage for Andrea Lee. So a nice little experience advantage for Lee. Both of these ladies finish at a pretty good rate. Lee has finished 2 of her 5 UFC wins and has finished 61% of her 13 pro wins inside the distance. Vivi has finished 1 of her 4 UFC wins and has finished 7 of her 10 UFC or pro wins inside the distance. These ladies have been finished a combined total of 2 times in their 8 combined losses. So both are pretty durable. And Andrea Lee's been submitted once, and Vivi's been knocked out once. When we look at the striking numbers, it's Andrea Lee who appears to be the better minute winner. She throws more volume than her opponents. She lands about 2 more significant strikes per minute than her opponents do, landing at almost a 50% accuracy and showing 65% striking defense. So we really like all those metrics there for Andrea Lee. They're much better than Vivi, who actually lands less significant strikes per minute than she absorbs. She throws less significant strikes per minute than her opponents do. And she's showing about 60% striking defense, which is good. 48% striking accuracy, not bad. A little bit of power. She's landed a knockdown in 6 UFC fights. So When on the feet, I think it's going to be Andrea is going to be a little more technical, and it's going to be Vivi who kind of like walks forward and throws bombs here. But with the grappling, both of these ladies have had some success. They're both landing around 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. They're both controlling their opponents for more than 10%. They're both getting their takedowns at 50% or better, which is really good. And they're not getting controlled a lot. Look at Viviane Araújo, 94.74% takedown defense. She stuffed 18 of 19 takedowns that her opponents have shot against her. And she's only been controlled for 6% of her UFC career thus far, which is probably in the neighborhood of about 5 minutes of total control time and about 85 minutes of cage time. So it's going to be hard to win minutes on the cage and on the ground against Viviane Araújo. Andrea Lee, though, is doing really well on the ground here. She's out controlling her opponents 18.84% to 18.6%. But Andrea Lee's been taken down 17 times. Andrea Lee has gotten 13 takedowns. And while Andrea Lee shot 26, her opponents have shot 41. So Andrea Lee's been very efficient. She's out controlling her opponents despite the fact that she's getting out takedowned by them by 4 and out takedown attempted by her opponents by 15. So I do like Andrea Lee's efficiency on the ground, and I like Vivi's ability to be able to keep the fight on the feet when she wants it there, and the ability to be able to get takedowns at a 60% clip when she wants to win minutes on the ground instead of on the feet. So these are both really good fighters here. The total fights, they're both fighting experienced competition. The ratio a little bit better for Araújo. The wins overall very similar for Araújo and Lee. And the losses a little bit better for Vivi. Just a little bit of a strength of schedule advantage for Vivi, I would say here. But this is a very close fight. What does the bookmakers say about this one?
-110 each way, pick 'em.
I was going to say, man, whichever one was the favorite will take the underdog. But of course, they kind of see it the same way I'm looking at it here. I really do think that this is going to be a very close fight. And the bookies seem to have it right as they've got this at a pick 'em. What do they got for the fight goes, fight doesn't go? Let's see if we can find something there.
Yeah, the chat's going crazy about the fight goes and the overs. So Glenn's liking the over 1.5. That's sitting at -505. The over 2.5 is -300. And the fight goes decision is -265. So lots of chalk, but it probably does go.
-265 for fight goes. And where they got the under 2.5 at?
Under 2.5 is sitting at +240.
240. So just right there, I'm showing a little bit of value versus the implied versus the divisional finish rate of 41.1%. We're only paying 35% for the fight doesn't go. So that's underpriced a little bit, but I can see why people would want to be on the fight goes here. 5 combined losses for Lee and Vivi, and neither one of them has ever been finished in the UFC. So that's a really good thing to have for a fight goes. So even with the fight goes here, 11 of their combined 14 UFC fights have went to decision. That's 78.6%. That's 20% better than the divisional decision rate of 58.6% and 6% better than the implied probability of the line at but this is with the line at -265. So there's still some value when that fight goes to decision at -265 according to my prop template, Brady.
Yep, but it's on 5 dimes, and I bet by the time we get it on Bet Online, it's gonna be like -300, right?
Yeah, -350 on Bet Online, and then on the sites where you can parlay it -500, I'm sure.
Yep.
And at which point I will be staying very far away.
That's how it goes. But yeah, I mean, it's a close fight. Viviane Araújo, I think she's very good. I think she can get takedowns early on. We've seen Andrea Lee actually taken down in every single UFC fight outside of Antonina Shevchenko. She got taken down twice by Wood Murphy, twice as well. She got taken down 5 times by Montana De La Rosa, taken out twice by Joanne Wood, taken out twice by Ashley Evans-Smith, taken down by Veronica Macedo, taken down by Cynthia Calvillo. So she's getting taken down a lot. It's just what I don't like about Araújo is her gas tank, just very, very bad. She has a really good first round. She kind of falls off in the second, then she's completely just gassed in the third. So yeah, I see why it's a pick 'em. I think Viviane's going to have success early. I think she can absolutely get Andrea Lee down early, but can she do it for 3 rounds? Probably not, and it's probably going to be very close, as the line does indicate. I think -110 each way looks about right to me, so I'm not going to be betting this fight, but fight goes to decision. I know people are talking about parlaying that. I think it does hit more often than not.
It looks like there's a little bit of value in it, even at this price, even at -265. But we'll see where it opens on the the American books, and we'll go from there. But at this point, at that price, it's actually bettable and it's actually parlayable, in my opinion.
Yep, to completely agree there. But we'll move on to the next fight. We have Jake Hadley going against Allan Nascimento. We have Hadley, who is 25 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. Nascimento, 30 years old, 5'9", with a 69-inch reach. So Hadley's going to be 5 years younger. Nascimento is going to have a 2-inch height advantage, and it's going to be Hadley who's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Hadley is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, had a submission win on the Contender Series in the second round. Kind of took off the first round a little bit. It was kind of, feeling out process, it looked like. Second round starts. As soon as it starts, he does close the distance, get it down to the mat, and he showed off his grappling there. As far as Nascimento, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Tagir Ulanbekov, and he lost that fight by decision. And he also fought on the Contender Series against William Paiva and lost that fight by decision. Both those fights, split decisions, and both of them were fairly close. The Paiva fight especially was very, very close. So this is a fight where, I'm not overly impressed with Hadley, but I do see why he's a favorite. I think he has a legit path to victory in terms of getting this fight down to the mat. In terms of their wrestling, we have Nascimento, who thus far is 1-for-11 on takedowns. That is 9%. And then we have Hadley, who I do think is going to be able to get takedowns here whenever he wants. Nascimento, a 16% takedown defense. So I feel like whoever gets on top is going to have success here. I feel like Hadley's going to get on top. Hadley's grappling really, really impressed me from the fights I watched. But Nascimento, I believe, is a black belt in BJJ. His grappling is really good in his own right, but it's just hard to imagine Nascimento going out here and taking down Hadley. I feel like it's more so going to be Hadley taking down Nascimento. So I like Hadley here to kind of grind out a decision. I don't really think he stops Nascimento. If this is on the feet, I do think Nascimento is actually pretty solid on the feet. He was actually outlanding Paiva in terms of the numbers. Hadley's striking is okay. His striking defense is okay. But I think this fight primarily does play out on the mat. So I like Hadley here. Not sure about laying that price tag on him, but I do think he wins this fight. Weezy, how do you feel about this one here?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I'm really looking forward to this fight. I've liked what I've seen out of Nascimento so far. He doesn't stop takedowns because he wants to be on the ground. He doesn't really even care if he's on bottom, in my opinion. I just think he wants to be grappling. He's very aggressive and very unusual in his grappling. And Hadley here is the younger guy, but it's going to be Nascimento who's taller. But Nascimento, 16 more professional fights, about 130 more minutes in the pro cage, about 6 more years as a pro, 1 more UFC level fight, 22 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys finishing their fights right around 75%. But we can see Hadley, 4 wins by submission, 2 by knockout. For Nascimento, it's 72% by submission, 11% by knockout, but 83% finish rate, which I believe is 15 out of 18 wins coming inside the distance. So that would be 13 wins by submission, 2 by knockout for Allan Nascimento. And Nascimento's never been finished in 6 professional losses. The striking numbers that we have, we don't have a lot of them, but the grappling numbers are important here, as Nascimento's being controlled 40% of his UFC career thus far. And I don't even know if we have control time numbers on that Paiva fight. I'm not sure if we do or not. Either way, he's constantly in control time positions for and against here. And he's going to be going for takedowns. He's going to be trying to get top position. And we see that Hadley, in his only fight, was taken down on 2 of 3 attempts. So if Hadley winds up on the bottom, I think this could be anybody's fight. Look, Nascimento a little bit longer. He's got a lot more experience. He's been doing this for about 6 more years. He loves to grapple, which is where Hadley wants to be. So I think that Nascimento is going to be live here. I like maybe the fight going to decision. Let me see where my prop template is seeing that one right now.
I think -115.
For the fight doesn't go.
For the fight goes 115. For the fight doesn't go -125.
Minus 125. Yeah, because it was minus 115 for the fight doesn't go the other day. So now it looks like a little bit of money coming in there. The fight goes to decision at minus 115 is a 53.5% implied probability, but 125-pound fights are going to decision 60.1% of the time. So we're getting about almost a 7% edge at that particular price. And let's not forget that Nascimento in 6 pro losses has never been finished. So this could be a good spot for the fight goes at minus 115.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually think if the fight finishes, it's probably Nascimento. I just don't see Hadley obviously knocking him out, and I don't see Hadley submitting him as well. I think if Hadley wins, it's going to be takedowns and top control, but when he does that, he's going to be playing right into Nascimento's game. Like, Nascimento had a lot of success off his back against Tagir. So, yeah, I mean, it's a definitely interesting fight, and it's even more interesting when we take a look at the line. We see Hadley open up minus 300, actually. He's now minus 205, and Nascimento opened up plus 250. He is now plus 175. So lots of chalk on the Hadley side. I'm not sure. I mean, I took a look at some of his fights outside the UFC, and I did see him get reversed quite a bit. You don't like to really see that. I mean, yeah, I mean, I saw Zero in there saying that Nascimento is the livest dog on the entire card, and I definitely do think he's live at this line. But as far as picking a winner, I still think it's going to be Hadley, who's going to be getting takedowns. He's going to be on top. But like I said, Nascimento is going to be completely okay with that for 3 rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that he can grapple for the full 3 rounds and be dangerous the entire time. I'm going to be taking a look at the dog here. Look, I've already got a bet on Petroski. I mean, I think that Maximov's a better fighter. I think that he's going to win that fight. But, like, come on, man, minus 470. These guys are the same fighter. Petroski just got a little bit worse on the conditioning. But, I mean, like, the striking is similar. Here we got another situation where this guy Nascimento is in close fights. And it's close until he submits you. And if he doesn't submit you, he's going to have a hard time winning a ton of minutes because the guy Nascimento is so aggressive from his back. He's constantly working for sweeps, constantly looking for submissions, and he's really tricky. So, and then we got Hadley making his debut here, and we already know the guy's a bit of a head case, Yeah. So I'm not laying minus 200 on this dude.
Yep, I'm not as well. But yeah, like you said, that fight goes to decision minus 115 is fairly tempting. The over 2.5 minus 145, I think that's solid as well. I don't see a finish here really. Like, honestly, if I see a finish, it's maybe Nascimento getting a submission. So yeah, I think the over is solid.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, Nascimento's been very durable, and I don't really see anybody. He's never been submitted in 24 professional fights, and I think he does have the better striking here. It's going to be a good one.
Oh, yeah, definitely a close fight there, but we will keep moving on to the next fight, and we have Frank Camacho going against Manuel Torres, another guy making his debut here. We have Camacho, 32 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach. Torres, he is 27 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach. Torres, 5 years younger, both 5'10", 73-inch reach there. Camacho, he is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Drew Dober, a knockout loss against Jeff Neal, a knockout win against Nick Hine, a submission loss to Beneil Dariush, and then a knockout loss to Justin James. As far as Manuel Torres, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, and he did have a nice knockout win on the Contender Series where he poked England in the eye, and Herb Dean just let it go, and then he ended up finishing him. It was I don't know, you couldn't really see it, but he probably poked his eye there, and Herb probably should have stepped in. But regardless, counts as a knockout win, and he gets a contract there. So yeah, this is a very interesting fight. We were just talking before the show, like, it's crazy that Frank Camacho is only 32 years old. It feels like he's so much older than that, and we have not seen Camacho in some time. I think the last time we saw him was 2020. I want to say June. So it's been like almost 2 years since we have seen Frank Camacho. I'm not sure why that is. Yeah, he got knocked out by Justin James, but that's definitely a long layoff there. Manuel Torres, I mean, this is a tricky fight to call because you go and watch the tape on this guy, and first of all, there's only like 3 fights available, and second of all, there's like maybe 4 minutes, 4.5, 5 minutes of footage, if that, on this guy. In one of the fights, he gets taken down, he gets a reversal, ends up getting submitted, lasts about a minute. Obviously, the Contender Series fight lasts a couple minutes, and there's another fight where he goes out there and gets a submission, like a guillotine as well. So just not a ton of information on Torres. We did see on the Contender Series, he did look to be, much calmer in that performance. His striking looked really good, had really nice kicks to the body, to the head as well. And I like what I see from the guy, but I just need to see a lot more before, betting on him at this point, especially as a favorite against a guy like Frank Camacho, who this guy is a veteran of the sport. He's been fighting for a very long time. He's fought very good guys like Jeff Neal, Beneil Dariush, very good guys, Drew Dober. So yeah, kind of a tricky, weird fight. Frank Camacho is always going to bring it. He always tends to get into these wars, to these brawls. And I think that's why they match these guys up against each other. Like, this fight's going to be so much fun for as long as it lasts. Frank Camacho, he has a black belt in BJJ. That's always the narrative. He never chooses to use that. I feel like he might want to use that here. I believe Torres has been submitted, I think, in both of his losses, but we know Frank Camacho, he's not going to do that, but I'd recommend it. I think they're going to stand and bang Weezy. Someone's going down. Somebody's going down in the first round. I don't know who it's going to be, but this fight's going to be so much fun.
It is going to be so much fun. I can't wait for it. But so Camacho was in some kind of an accident in 2021. He had a fight scheduled, Matt Frivola, and he got into a really bad accident that caused him to have to withdraw from that fight. So, yeah, we haven't seen him since June of 2020. And, so it's almost 2 years. And prior to that, he was very active. This guy's just been fighting. I think he took his first pro fight when he was 16 years old.
Crazy.
Back in 2005 against Bernie Neff in Trench Wars. And then the next fight was against somebody named Mike Camacho. And I wouldn't even be surprised if that's his brother, because like from the Northern Mariana Islands, I don't know if there's a lot of people to fight out there. But anyway, yeah, he's been around forever. So I'm not surprised that, this is happening, that this is going to be a total war. It's going to be a really fun fight. These are both guys who are finishers of the highest order. 92% finish rate for Manuel Torres, 86% finish rate for Camacho. Camacho has been finished in 78% of his losses, and Torres has been finished in 100% of his losses. So this is all signs are pointing to violence, but the bookies have already kind of figured that one out. You look at Camacho, and this is over a ridiculous 7-fight sample size in the UFC here. We've got 14.43 significant strike attempts per minute, and his opponents are throwing 15.27. So he's just in these crazy wars with a ton of volume. It's just chaos when Camacho is in the cage. And we don't really know much about Torres. We got to see him for 2 minutes on the Contender Series, and like you said, he poked the dude in the eye. Herb didn't see it, so Torres did exactly what he was supposed to do. He exploded on the guy and finished him. I mean, that's what you do. I mean, if the referee's not stepping in, you got to take it any way you can get it. But I don't know what to think of this guy. He looks long. He looks like he fights long. His striking looks really pretty. And he's got 6 career wins by submission as well. So he's clearly got some, a dangerous ground game. But we haven't seen Camacho in 2 years. I think like this is going to be something where I'm going to be looking for violence and not much else. I don't know if I want to pick a side in this one.
Yeah, it's really hard to, especially seeing that Frank Camacho. How many times has Frank been knocked out at this point? It's a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, so 56% of his overall losses are by knockout, so that's 5 of 9.
Yeah, he's been knocked out 5 times. He's taken a 2-year layoff. He's now 32, which is young, but my goodness, he's been fighting forever. And I just think they're going to stand in the middle and bang until one man falls. It's going to be fun, but as far as picking a side, it's tough because you've got to like the experience of Frank Camacho, the level of competition. But Torres is, the younger guy, the fresher guy, has never been knocked out. You got to like that as well. So just a lot of question marks. But yeah, violence. I mean, I think violence is absolutely the way to go. And I do want to see where they do have that fight doesn't go at. Looks like the fight doesn't go to decision is sitting at -285 now. And then the over-under is set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is -150. And the under 1.5 is +120. Over 2.5 over 2.5 is +140. And the under 2.5 is -170. So yeah, I think they're definitely all over it here. -285 sounds about right to me. And I think you're muted.
If I take a quick look at the prop template here, we can just have a little bit of fun and just see the combined 45 fights for these two combined. 39 of them have finished inside the distance. How about
Crazy.
that? 86.7%. I mean, come on. If you're not expecting violence here, you are a true contrarian.
Yep, for sure. If somebody said in the chat that I took the under 1.5, I actually don't hate that, but I don't really like betting under 1.5. But I think that has a good chance of hitting. I think this fight ends in like the first round.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if it did. I mean, that's just the kind of fight. I mean, this guy Camacho, you expect it from him, and this is the type of fighter you expect it from. A guy who's a really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who refuses to use it, you know, because he likes to throw hands. He likes to be in wars. That's what he does. This guy likes to fight.
Oh yeah. Let's see these other props. So Camacho wins inside the distance, plus 245. Torres wins inside the distance, plus 100. See the money line here. Torres opened up minus 225. He's now minus 135. Camacho opened up plus 190. He's currently plus 115. I just don't see how I could lay chalk on Torres with this little of information. But yeah, it's going to be a banger, but I just can't bet a money line side here. But as far as violence, I'm going to be looking for something. Obviously, I don't want to really touch the minus 285 for the fight as it go, but maybe like the under 1.5. The fight won't start round 3. The under 2.5 could be better, but yeah, I think violence is probably the way to go here.
I agree with you absolutely. A Camacho fight that doesn't have violence is like, you know, I mean, it just doesn't even exist.
Yep, I totally agree. But yeah, cannot wait for that one. Let's move on to another fight here. We have Katlyn Chookagian going against Amanda Ribas. We have Chookagian, 33 years old, 5'9" with a 68-inch reach. Ribas, she is 20 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach. Chookagian's going to be 5 years older. Chookagian's going to have a 6-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage as well. As far as the last couple of fights, Chookagian has been on a nice little run here. She beat Antonina Shevchenko by decision, lost to Jessica Andrade by knockout, but she has 3 wins in a row. Cynthia Calvillo by decision, Viviane Araújo by decision, and then Jennifer Maia by decision. As far as Amanda Ribas, she has 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Decision against Mackenzie Dern, win against Randall Marcos by decision, submission, win against Paige Van Zandt, knockout loss to Marina Rodriguez, and then a decision win against Virna Jandiroba. Weezy, what do you think about this one here?
Love this fight. So 21 fights for Chookagian, 13 for Ribas, so about almost 200 more minutes in the pro cage for Katlyn, but it's actually Ribas who has the longer career. So Katlyn's been very active, fighting about 3 times a year. And Katlyn's got 8 more UFC level fights, 135 more minutes in the UFC cage. Ribas, the much better finisher, a 63% finish rate, while for Katlyn Chookagian, it's a 18% finish rate and a 0% finish rate at the UFC level. 10 wins, all of them by decision. She's been knocked out in 2 of her 4 UFC losses, and Ribas has been knocked out in both of her pro losses, both of them by knockout. So Chookagian lands about 0.3 more significant strikes per minute than she absorbs. She throws about 1.2 more significant strike attempts per minute than her opponents do. 36% striking accuracy, 1 knockdown in 14 fights, and 0.08 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And she's been knocked down once in 843 significant strikes absorbed, but a really nice 63% striking defense. Ribas has got really nice numbers. She's landing more than twice as many significant strikes per minute than she absorbs. Lands 4.65, only absorbs 2.17. 42% accuracy, 70% striking defense. But she's been knocked down twice in 6 fights. She's absorbing a knockdown on over 1.5% of the significant strikes that she absorbs. And she is allowed a half knockdown per 15 minutes. So, on the feet, it's going to be interesting because Ribas is decent on the feet, but Katlyn is much better. And Katlyn is the much better minute winner on the feet. She manages distance well, throws kicks and punches. Everything is straight. She's constantly moving and is just a very difficult person to win minutes against on the feet. Ribas does a good job with her grappling, but we don't see a big commitment to it. 17 takedown attempts in 6 fights. She's gotten 8 of them. She's averaging about 2 takedowns for 15 minutes and about 1.5 submission attempts for 15 minutes. And even though she's trying just about as many takedown attempts as her opponents are, she's out controlling her opponents at about a 3-to-1 ratio. So Amanda's very efficient on the ground. She's a judo black belt, really good with her Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well. Katlyn Chookagian, I believe, is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu brown belt under John Danaher, if I'm not mistaken. And her fights are taking place in control time positions about 23% of the time, while for Ribas, it's about 42% of the time. So Katlyn's going to be wanting to keep this fight standing, and I think that Amanda's going to need to try to get this to the ground. Amanda getting her takedowns at a 47% clip, Katlyn Chookagian only defending takedowns at a 55% clip. So there is a path here for Ribas to win minutes on the ground here. Will she take that path? She's probably going to try, because I think she's going to be frustrated on the feet. Why is Amanda Ribas moving up to 125 pounds anyway? And I mean, this is a really rough welcome to the division against a woman with 14 UFC fights, and she's won 10 of them. I don't look, strength of schedule. Very similar here. I think the wins are just a little bit better for Chookagian. The overall better ratio for Ribas, but more experienced competition for Chookagian. The losses, I would say, are a little bit better for Ribas, as she's only lost to Marina Rodriguez, who's 7-1. 2 draws, but that doesn't matter in this. So, yeah, this is a close one. I think that Katlyn should be able to win this fight. I know she's a decent-sized favorite here, but her ability to be able to keep fights standing and win minutes on the feet, I think, is going to be too much for Ribas, who's going to really have to commit to that wrestling against a much bigger girl and against a girl who's got some pretty good BJJ in her own right. So I'm going to be picking Katlyn Chookagian. And whenever you pick Katlyn Chookagian to win, you do it by decision, Brady.
You absolutely do. And yeah, I don't get why she's moving up in weight either. Maybe somebody in the chat can tell us why, but this is going to be her second fight at 125 pounds. The first one was against Paige Van Zandt. And I think size is just going to be the biggest thing here. Like you said, for Ribas to win this fight, she's not going to go out there and outstrike Katlyn Chookagian for 15 minutes. She's going to have to try to take down Chookagian, and is she going to be able to take down a much, much bigger Katlyn Chookagian? So yeah, Ribas is really small for 125, and Chookagian's going to have a good 6 inches of height, a reach of inches as well. Yeah, I think Chook just goes out there, stuffs the takedowns, and outstrikes Ribas. Something funny that stuck out to me was the 35% striking accuracy of Chookagian, but she makes up with that with making those tennis sounds. Like, the judges are blind, they can't see the fight, but they can hear, and they're hearing those tennis sounds come from Chookagian, ultimately scoring the fight. So, yep, I think Chookagian wins this fight, wins it by decision. I think Katlyn Chookagian by decision is a really good look this week, especially if you can get it on 5 dimes right now, which this line makes no sense. So Chookagian is minus 170, minus 180 on the money line, and her decision prop is plus 155. She has an 18% finish rate, which you got to imagine is the worst on the entire card by a mile.
It has to be. I mean, I don't know anybody in the UFC that has less than an 18% finish rate. I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, so plus 155 for Chookagian by decision. I would not hate a shot at that at all, really.
Yeah, and then when you look at, like, fight goes to decision and doesn't. What's that?
The fight goes to decision is only minus 185.
Yeah, I know. That's shocking for a Chookagian fight, because 5 of 20 of these combined fights between Chookagian and Ribas have finished inside the distance. So, you know, that's only a 25% finish rate, 75% decision rate now, and you're getting the line at 65%, you know, especially when these things are going to decision 59% of the time. Yeah, it does feel like fight goes to decision is a really nice bet here, and the prop template is telling us that we're overpaying 6% for it, but that's against the divisional finish rate. When you look at the 75% of the 20 combined fights of theirs going to decision at the UFC level, that's 16% better than the divisional decision rate and 10% better than the implied probability of the line. Definitely liking that fight goes at minus 185.
Yeah, but there's no way we're getting that. That's 5 dimes there. But yeah, on Bet Online, the over 2.5 is like minus 250. On Bovada, it's minus 265, and then on 5 dimes, it's like minus 215. So,
wow, Yeah, yeah, that's that's 5 dimes. They always have the best lines by a mile.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So Chookagian -180. Looks like money's just pouring in on her, and I get why. I mean, I think size is going to definitely matter here. Don't want to don't want to bet Chookagian as that big of a favorite. She is in a lot of close fights, and like I said,
Yeah.
Ribas does have a path to victory in terms of getting takedowns. We have seen Chookagian take it down before, but just she's much bigger, and I think that's going to matter here. So Chookagian for me, Chookagian by decision. Would love the +155. Gonna have to see where Bet Online and all them put it out.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight, and yeah, there's a path here for Ribas. She looked great against Jandiroba. She clearly lost that first round, but really stuffed takedowns really well, and in the second and the third round, the striking was fantastic, and the conditioning was fantastic. She really put it together in that fight. So it's going to be interesting to see her take this next step, moving up to 125. And doing it against a girl in Chookagian who's top 5 in that division, which is already a tough division. So this is a tall order for Amanda Ribas here.
Yeah, for sure. Brandon saying might move out of the country to use 5 dimes. Me and Mees were talking about that. Maybe go buy an island, go use some 5 dimes, and then just make the money. Just make the money. Pay for the island. Could be something to look at in the near future.
Yeah, man, those lines are crazy, man. It feels like they're just fucking with us, and that the book doesn't actually even exist. And they're just like, it's like that mythical thing. Like, I know somebody that has a 5 dimes account, the lines are unbelievable.
It's crazy sometimes. It definitely is. But we'll move on to the next fight. We have it should be a very good fight here. We have Davey Grant going against Luis Smolka. We have Davey Grant, who is 36 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. Smolka, 30 years old, 5'9" with a 68-inch reach. It's going to be Smolka, who is 6 years younger. He's going to have a 1-inch height advantage, and it's going to be Grant, has a 1-inch reach advantage. Luis Smolka, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a submission loss to Matt Schnell, a knockout win against Ryan McDonald, a submission loss to Casey Kenny, a knockout win against Jose Quinones, and then a knockout loss to Vince Morales. Davey Grant, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Gregory Popov, a knockout win against Martin Day, a knockout win against Jonathan Martinez, a decision loss to Marlon Vera, and a decision loss to Adrian Yanez. So Davey Grant is somebody who has lost 2 fights straight, but his stock has skyrocketed, and we'll talk about the line, but he's a big favorite here. He looked really good against Adrian Yanez. I had a bet on Adrian Yanez, and I was kind of nervous. I thought, Yanez would make it look a lot easier than that, but no, split decision loss to Adrian Yanez there. I thought the striking was actually very competitive in that fight. I thought all 3 of those rounds were very, very close. I did score it for Yanez there, but Davey Grant put up a very good account of himself. And then even against Marlon Vera, yes, Marlon Vera loses every first round, but he beat Marlon Vera in the first round. The second was somewhat competitive for a while, and then Marlon Vera ended up taking over, but still, put up a very good account of himself. And then prior to that, knocking out both Martin Day and Jonathan Martinez as dogs. So yeah, Davey Grant is a guy that has, he's 36 years old. He's a bantamweight, and he's in the best form of his career. So pretty cool to see. And then you have Luis Smolka on the other side, who is just the definition of inconsistent. So Davey Grant's a big favorite. You can see why. I think his striking has improved leaps and bounds. Very good kicks, very active, very long, lots of volume as well. And then his ground game is very solid also. So yeah, I think he has Smolka covered pretty much everywhere here. Smolka does have a 31% takedown defense. Davey Grant, if he wants to go for takedowns, he probably can get them. But I think even on the feet, he's going to give Smolka a lot of problems. So Davey Grant, second biggest favorite on the card. I think he should absolutely win and probably do it inside the distance as well. Weezy, how do you feel about this fight here?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's going to be an all-action war, in my opinion. Smolka's more experienced, 6 more fights than Davey Grant, about twice as much time, or about 100 more minutes in the pro cage. But it's Davey Grant who's been fighting for 3 years longer. So Davey Grant's been very inactive over his career. 19 fights in almost 13 years. He spent a lot of time on the sidelines injured. And these guys in the UFC who add up their records, and they're 12-13. So these guys, I don't think you want to pay up for either one of these guys at Juice, because they're not reliable. They're not entirely reliable. But what we do see is that the strength of schedule for Grant, 1.63 ratio to 1.18 for Smolka, and the almost the exact same amount of total fights. The wins a little bit better for Grant. The losses a little bit better for Grant. So, he's fought the better brand of competition here. They're both landing more significant strikes per minute than they absorb. They both throw them more than their opponents. It's Smolka who's a little bit more accurate. It's Grant who has a little bit more power. They're both getting knocked down quite a bit. For Smolka, it's 5 times in 16 fights. And for Davey Grant, it's 3 times in 9 fights. And, you know, they're absorbing significance, or they're absorbing knockdowns about 0.8% of the significant strikes that they absorb. So we see both of these guys are landing knockdowns and getting knockdowns. They're both getting takedowns as well. They're both out-controlling their opponents by about 3%. Smolka, 48 takedown attempts. He's gotten 18 of them. So he's getting them at a decent clip. But Davey Grant's getting his at a 44% clip. It's going to be an interesting fight, man. You know, I would be betting violence here. Right now, you can get the fight doesn't go to decision at about minus 145. That's 59% implied probability, which is only about 10% worse than the 49% implied probability of a finish in this division. But when you look at their combined UFC records, 10 of 16 fights for Smolka, 5 of 9 for Grant have finished inside the distance. That's a combined total of 15 of 25. So 60% of the time, these guys are finishing inside the distance, and the line is priced up at 59.18%. So it is a very, very well-priced fight. Doesn't go to decision line, although I do think we're going to see violence in this particular fight. I kind of like the under here. I'm leaning Davey Grant to win the fight due to the level of competition. And like you say, it's hard to know what to expect out of Smolka. Sometimes he looks good when you expect him to look like trash, and vice versa. So, yeah, it's probably one that I'm going to be staying away from. But I'll be taking a look at that fight doesn't go. If I can get that closer to minus 130, minus 125, I might be taking a look at it.
Yeah, that minus 145 got smashed, and it's now minus 180, sadly.
Whoa. Okay, so like at that price then, if that's minus 180 and the fight goes is what?
Plus 140.
140. That might make it a little bit more interesting now for the fight goes, because we've had 10 of their combined 25 fights going to decision. That's 40%. That's like actually priced perfectly with the implied probability of the line, which is about at 41.7%. Yeah, but Grant is so durable. I mean, Marlon Vera was beating the shit out of him in the 3rd round. I don't know how that fight didn't get stopped, but to Grant's credit, you're really not knocking this dude out. You have to submit him if you're going to finish him. And Smolka can submit dudes. I mean, he's got a lot of submissions on his record. And I do think that this fight will get into the grappling realm for about half the time, if not more, because that's about the percentage of time that these guys have been involved in the grappling themselves. So I think it's going to get there. I think, you know, potentially this fight will end by submission because they're both pretty tough. But, yeah, at the current line, I don't think I'll be betting Grant at this current line.
Yeah, and it's only going to be getting wider. It looks like people are hammering that money line. So Grant opened up minus 255. It looks like went to minus 175. Now back to minus 160 or minus 260. Looks like Grant is minus 290 on FanDuel, minus 280 on DraftKings, and Smolka's sitting at plus 220. The fight goes to decision, plus 140. The fight doesn't go, minus 180. And then the over-under, this is on Bet Online, the over 2.5, plus 145. The under 2.5 is minus 275. So I think by the time Bet Online gets out, that fight doesn't go. It's probably even worse than that minus 180. So yeah, I think they're expecting violence. I'm expecting violence, but that's definitely a lot to pay here. But yeah, I think Grant probably knocks him out at some point in this fight. But laying minus 260 on Davey Grant, 36-year-old bantamweight. And like you said, like Smolka, sometimes he shows up and he looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
And sometimes he shows up and looks bad. So, I mean, what if the good Smolka looks up? Then it will be probably more competitive. But yeah, I like Grant here, but I just don't really see a way to play this fight. I don't want to lay minus 260 on him. Maybe like Grant inside the distance plus 100, Smolka inside the distance plus 475. Nothing's really sticking out for this one. It would be the under, but it looks like it's getting smashed. Like the under 2.5 opened up minus 135. It's now minus 175.
Yeah, I'm just going to be staying away from this one, man. It's just too wide on the money line. It's too wide on the violence line right now. So I'm going to let other people steam it and just sit back.
Yep, I think that is probably the best move there. But we have the co-main event now. 186 of you hanging out. If y'all can smash the like button, that'd be much, much appreciated as always. Kind of a shorter card, shorter show. We have only 11 fights this card. Hopefully, all 11 of them stay on. We've had some shenanigans the last couple fights. Cerrone pulling out on fight day. We had Romanov pulling out on fight day. So hopefully none of that, but we'll see what happens. We have Ryan Spann going against Ion Cutelaba. This is a fire co-main event. I cannot wait for this one. We have Ryan Spann, who is 30 years old, 6'5", with a 79-inch reach. Ion Cutelaba, 28 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach. Cutelaba, 2 years younger, but it's going to be Spann who's going to have a 4-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage as well. Ryan Spann, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Had a submission win against Devin Clark, a split decision win against Sam Alvey, a knockout loss at Johnny Walker, a knockout win against Misha Serkinov, and then a submission loss to Anthony Smith. As far as Ion Cutelaba, he has 2-2 and 1 draw in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Khalil Roundtree, a knockout loss against Magomed Ankalaev, another knockout loss against Magomed Ankalaev, a draw against Dustin Jacoby, and then a decision win against Devin Clark. So, yeah, Ion Cutelaba in his last 2 fights has been going the takedown route and doing it quite often. In the Dustin Jacoby fight, he went out there and took down Dustin Jacoby a massive 9 times and was able to control him for 4 minutes and 27 seconds of the fight. So he was taking him down, but Jacoby was doing a very good job at getting right back up. He made Cutelaba work, and Cutelaba did slow down a lot as the fight went on. Ended up being a draw there. And then his next fight against Devin Clark, he went out there and took down Devin Clark 8 times, and he went out there and attempted 12 of those takedowns as well, controlled Devin Clark for 8 minutes and 48 seconds. And I wonder if he's going to come in here and try to take down Ryan Spann like he's done his last 2 fights, or if he's going to come in here and stand and bang, like he has done somewhat in the past. Yeah, this should be fun, Weezy. Both these guys are very, very dangerous. What do you think about this one here?
Such a great fight, such a great violent spot here. In terms of these guys' UFC records, you got Cutelaba finishing 3 of 5 wins, Spann finishing 4 of 6 wins. But look at the losses. All 3 of Spann's UFC losses inside the distance, 4 of 5 Cutelaba losses coming inside the distance. So in the combined 8 losses, 7 of them inside the distance. That's a huge percentage. You got to love that. 87.5% for a violence bet. That's sweet. And then you see that Spann's landing knockdowns on over 3% of the significant strikes that he's landing. Cutelaba just under 0.5%. So Cutelaba doesn't show as much power on the feet, but also, he's only been knocked down twice in 11 fights, while Spann has been knocked down 3 times in 9 fights. So it's Spann who's more likely to land a knockdown, but he's also more likely to be the one that's more chinny here as well. In terms of the grappling, Ion getting his takedowns at a 60% clip and controlling his opponents 22.5% of the time, averaging 4.39 takedowns for 15 minutes, and showing almost 80% takedown defense in his own right, and limiting his opponents to less than 14% control time. Spann has gotten 1 less takedown than his opponents have, but he's out-controlled his opponents by about 9%. Spann's a huge human being. I have no idea how this guy makes 205 pounds at 6'5", but he is an absolutely massive dude, and like 4 inches of height, 4 inches of reach. So I think that while this is on the feet, even though Spann's kind of low volume there, I really do believe that he's got a big chance to land a big shot and kind of change the the trajectory of this fight. But Cutelaba should be the better minute winner here as he throws more volume. He commits to the wrestling a lot more, and he really brings a pace that Ryan Spann might not be comfortable with. I mean, we saw him wilt under the pace that Smitty put on him, and that was a very high-paced fight right from the start. Cutelaba has fought the better brand of competition. The wins are very similar, but maybe edging Ryan Spann. The losses are better for Cutelaba. The grappling's better. He's a little more experienced at the UFC level here. Been doing this about a year longer. I think there's a lot to like about Ion Cutelaba here, but I think the fight doesn't go to decision is a nice parlay piece for this week, and I can't wait to watch this fight. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be so much fun indeed. We see that Ion Cutelaba is the favorite. He opened up -175. He's now -210. Ryan Spann opened up plus 150, and he is currently plus 180. The over-under, no surprise, is set at 1.5. The over 1.5 plus 115, and the under 1.5 is minus 145. The fight goes to decision, plus 305, and the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 425, and looks like it's getting wider.
Yeah, as it should. As it should. I mean, like we said, dude, 7 of 8 combined UFC losses inside the distance. And these guys both do bring a pace. Spann brings that crazy power, but, you know, he's also got great front chokes that he finishes fights with. Cuțelaba could put himself into a couple of bad positions going for takedowns, but, man, this is such a good fight. I can't wait for this one. It's great co-main event. Violence is on the menu, and I'm going to be picking Jan Cuțelaba here, but I don't know if I'm going to be betting a money line side here. I'd like to maybe get that fight doesn't go in a parlay, though.
Yeah, I think I'll pick Cuțelaba as well, and maybe like Cuțelaba inside the distance, I'd say, but it's minus 160 at this point.
Yeah, that's, oh my God. Yeah, I mean, paying minus money, paying juice for an inside the distance prop is just not a good long-term strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, yeah, nothing really. These decision props are hilarious. Cuțelaba by decision plus 750. Spann by decision plus 490. That's crazy.
Plus 490?
Yeah.
So it's better for Cuțelaba, huh?
Yeah, which is weird. It should be the other way around.
You'd think, right? Because Cuțelaba is the favorite, and Cuțelaba has won just as many fights by decision as Ryan Spann has. I mean, 88% finish rate for Cuțelaba and a 84% finish rate for Spann. So, yeah, sometimes, you know, they don't get the lines right, you know? I mean, like, I caught that Macy Chase on by decision at plus 380. It was her only path. You know, sometimes, you know, you just say, oh, wow, they blew that. There's nothing wrong with taking a shot on Jan Cuțelaba by decision here. He could win minutes here with the grappling and potentially not finish Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a wrestling based. I mean, he did his last fight against Devin Clark, which I'm shocked that fight was not stopped, by the way.
Oh, that was hard to watch. I mean, he knocked Devin Clark's teeth. He rearranged his teeth, man. That was nasty. Devin Clark, I mean, big ups to that dude. He's tough, dude. That guy is a scrapper.
Yeah, and it sucked even worse. I had Cuțelaba inside the distance that fight as well.
That's the game we play, man. That's the game we play.
Yeah, it's all right. Keith Peterson was reffing, so it's expected at this point.
Yeah. That guy's unbelievable. That prick. Don't get me started on that guy yesterday with the fence grab and the Clayton Rodriguez fight that he let Vergara get away with. It just,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was a really blatant fence grab, and that wound up being, you know, he takes that point and Clayton gets the win. But it is what it is. Like I say, it's the game we play. And this particular fight is exactly the kind of fight, Brady, where if you're on the fence, you can just sit back and say, I don't have to bet it because you're going to enjoy watching it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the best, if not the best fight on the entire card, maybe even better than the main event that we'll get into now. Yeah, we have the main event. We have Jan Blachowicz going against Aleksader Rakic. I kind of have mixed feelings about this fight. We have Blachowicz, who is 39 years old at this point. He's 6'2", he's 78-inch reach. Rakic, 30 years old, 6'4", with a 78-inch reach. We take a look at the last few fights. We have Blachowicz, who is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Jacare Souza. Knockout win against Corey Anderson. Knockout win against Dominic Reyes. Decision win against Israel Adesanya. Then that submission loss against Glover Teixeira. Rakic, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Devin Clark. Knockout win against Jimmy Manuel. A decision loss against Volkan Oezdemir. A decision win against Anthony Smith. And then a decision win against Thiago Santos Weezy. What do you think about this main event here?
So Błachowicz, much more experienced, right? 250 more minutes in the cage, 21 more pro fights, about 5 more years as a pro, 10 more UFC level fights, 130 more minutes in the UFC cage. Błachowicz finishing at a career rate of 61%. For Rakic, it's 71%. Błachowicz finished in 4 of 9 losses. Rakic finished in 1 of 2 losses. Both of these guys have nice striking ratios, but Rakic's is better. Błachowicz landing 3.6, absorbing about 2.8, throws about 1 more significant strike attempt per minute than his opponents. 50% accuracy, about I'd say about seven knockdowns in 17 fights. And he's only been knocked down once in 17 fights. So excellent chin. Striking defense at 53.5% is not great, but the fact that he, lands 0.8 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs is really good. But Rakic is actually landing 2 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, and he's throwing about 3.25 more per minute than his opponents do. He's a little more accurate. He's got a better knockdown rate as he's landing knockdowns on about 1.2% of the significant strikes that he lands. And he's averaging 0.75 knockdowns per 15 minutes to 0.43 for Blachowicz. So a little more power for Rakic, a little more volume for Rakic. But Blachowicz has been very durable and not chinny in a weight class where it's difficult to do that. And he's got some power of his own, the Polish power that we've all heard so much about. When we get to the grappling numbers here, we see that Blachowicz has not been very efficient on the ground. He's got as many takedowns as his opponents do, but he's getting out-controlled at about a 2-to-1 ratio. And that's, with him getting more takedowns than his opponents. 66% takedown defense is okay, but Aleksader Rakic has a 90% takedown defense. He's stuffed 18 of 20 takedown attempts, but he's still been controlled for 19% of his UFC career while controlling his opponents for 24%. So Rakic probably the more likely guy to be winning minutes on the ground here, but it's probably Blachowicz that has the better chance to get the fight to the ground, as he's getting his takedowns at a 53% clip, and for Rakic, it's only a 25% clip. When we look at the strength of schedule here, it's Blachowicz. He's got the better overall, the better wins, and the better losses here. Rakic's last fights have been very difficult to watch. I mean, no action at all. Really surprising, that this guy can do as little as he does in the cage, especially in that Anthony Smith fight. That was one of the worst fights that ever happened. That one gave Carla and fucking Rose a run for its money. And then Thiago Santos, who's been in some real stinkers lately too. So this is going to be interesting. Can Blachowicz bring a fight? Because you're going to have to drag it out of Rakic, because Rakic just loves to hold people up against the cage and just kind of lay on top of his opponents and win minutes in as easy and non-confrontational way as he can do. But, the low leg kicks that Rakic throws are very nasty. I think they're going to be very important in this fight. You got to like the fact that he's 9 years younger, 2 inches taller, and that he's been, on a pretty nice streak here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is I don't know. I feel like this fight has potential to be like really boring, but I hope I'm wrong about that. But yeah, I think you mentioned a bunch of good points. I think Rakic is definitely live to go out here and get some takedowns. And we talked about it before. He has only completed 4 takedowns officially, but there was that fight with Anthony Smith where Smith kind of just fell down and they didn't even count the takedowns, and it happened like 3 times. So yeah, I think he could potentially get the fight down to the mat. I think he's going to try to. I thought, Blachowicz has improved his takedown defense throughout the years, and I think he has, but was kind of expecting him to stuff the takedowns of Teixeira, but Teixeira was able to get both of them easy. But prior to that, he was not taken down for like his last 5 fights. Prior to that, he wasn't taken out more than once since like 2017, 2016, where Patrick Cummings got him down 3 times back in the day. Looks like Corey Anderson got him down 4 times back in 2015. But yeah, that's definitely a path to victory for Rakic. And then on the feet, I feel like Blachowicz is going to have opportunities to potentially hurt Rakic, but I also feel like there's just not going to be a ton going on. We see it time and time again, a lot at this division as well. Like both guys have a ton of power, and both guys just respect each other so much that not a lot happens. Like the Santos fight was just horrible. Yeah. Rakic lands 36 strikes in 3 rounds. Gets outlanded, actually. Santos outlands him 49-36. When you're getting outlanded by Thiago Santos in the year of 2021, like that's not good. So I don't know. I feel like, both these guys are high level, but I just feel like the fight is not going to be that great. But let's take a look at the line here. We have, and Best Fight Odds does not have the line out, it looks like.
Yeah, you have to go all the way to the bottom.
All the way down.
To the future.
I don't know why they've been doing that as of late, but I found it. We have Rakic opened up minus 150 and money's like poured in on him the last like couple 24 hours here. We have Rakic now minus 180. Błachowicz opened up plus 130. He's currently plus 155. The fight goes to decision, and this is really interesting for a light heavyweight fight that's 5 rounds. The fight goes to decision is actually plus money at plus 105. The fight doesn't go is minus 145. So yeah, I would feel pretty uncomfortable betting Rakic at minus 180 and then just him going out there and doing nothing for 5 rounds. But him doing nothing probably wins the fight. He probably wins a decision, honestly, but it's probably not very exciting. So I like Rakic. I think he can push Błachowicz against the cage. I think he can take him down. And I think the striking is going to be pretty competitive with not a lot going on. But yeah, it's Rakic for me. The fight, I don't even know. Any thoughts on the fight goes or fight doesn't go? I feel like minus 145 is a steal for a 5-round fight, but I also feel like there's not going to be a ton of action throughout the 5 rounds.
Yeah, so when we look at these fight goes and fight doesn't goes, I'm just become completely dependent on the prop template here. And, we got to keep in mind this is a 5-round fight, of course, but 10 of these guys' 24 combined fights have finished inside the distance. So even at the current line of minus 135, that is overpriced by about 16% because these guys are only finishing 41% of the time, and you're paying 57.5% for the implied probability of minus 135 line here. So it looks like that fight doesn't go is overpriced.
Oh, wow.
And that the fight goes to decision is underpriced by about 7.1% because 14 of these guys' 24 combined UFC fights have went to decision. That's about 59% of the time. But we got to keep in mind that it is a 5-round fight. We're going to have to sweat through that extra 10 minutes if we bet that fight goes. And, so it might be showing a little more value than what there actually is. Because I think if we were to dig into the 5-round analytics of middleweight fights, light heavyweight fights, if they're not going the distance, 42% of the time, I would say it was probably more like 30% of the time for 5-round fights.
Yeah, and we'll dig more into that on probability as well. And we'll dig more into this fight on the main event deep dive on MMA Engine, which is going to be tomorrow. So check us out on there. But yeah, this fight, man, this fight, are you leaning like one way or another? Do you like the Rakic side, the Błachowicz side? Any thoughts on the line?
I'd have to just pick the Rakic side because, I think Aleksandar is completely happy with winning minutes while being, just drowned with booze. I don't think he cares. I really don't think he cares. And frankly, those guys are pretty good to bet on. They'll take the easiest path that they're presented with. And that's what you want your fighters doing when you have money on them. So I see why the money's coming in on Rakic here. He's 9 years younger. He's a little bit more dynamic and powerful at this point. Well-rounded. He can win minutes on the ground and on the feet. So, yeah, I do believe that Rakic is the side. But I just don't know if I'll be betting it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Dan saying Rakic is going to Jocko him. I think that's a really good comparison. Jocko, like you said, you like betting on those guys. Good fight IQ. They don't care if you call them boring. They just want to go out there and win, and that's what they do. No matter how many boos they get, they eat it up. They love it because they're winning.
That's right, and that's the best thing. Dude, when you have money on a fight, it's still exciting, even if it's a shit fight. If you got that decision ticket and your guy is, winning minutes, you're getting excited because you're about to cash a bet. And that's what this is all about, you guys. It's about cashing bets because that's a lot more fun than not cashing them.
Yep, and somebody said in the chat, if you want the fight to be boring, if you have those overs, looks like they have the over 3.5 minus 120s on DK. So the over 3.5 there, minus 115 on my book, he says, Dan. Yeah, I think the overs probably hit, but at the end of the day, both these guys are really dangerous when they let their hands go. Both these guys have a ton of power. That's the only concern, but yeah, I can definitely see this going the full 25.
I could too. But, believe me, both of these guys have got a good power. They're both finishing. Błachowicz has finished more than half of his 11 wins inside the distance. And for Rakic, it's 2 out of 6. So, these guys can absolutely finish this. They both got a ton of power.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, we did it. 11 fights. Weezy, let the people know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
Yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. I'll be doing a full card breakdown on Tuesday night called Just the Tip, 10 o'clock Central Time. We'll break down all 11 fights on these card, and we will finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We've got a 1 week streak restarted here. Got the Tracy Cortez ass shaving of the week pick right by decision last week, and we're going to hope to find another one this week. And yeah, you can find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel tomorrow for the main event deep dive, on Thursday for probability. And you can find me right here on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers, and every Wednesday for the DFS show, and every Saturday for the watch along. So you can pretty much find me anywhere on the web where we're talking about mixed martial arts statistics. You're going to find your Uncle Weezy there. You guys, UFC Vegas 54, 11 fights. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for this one. Let's keep this streak going.
Let's do it. It was a great start to May last night. Let's keep it rolling on this card here. I do want to give a big shout out to F. Carrillo. Scrolled up and missed your comment, but yeah, glad I caught it before we got out of here. Let's get it. Gents, and love y'all like family. B Dukes, congrats again, brother. Appreciate you, F. Carrillo. You're hanging out every week. Every show, you're always there and you're always supporting. Appreciate that a ton. You are the man. I do want to shout out Tajik again, and all the guys that donated. Lots of donations tonight, and we do appreciate that quite a bit. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. AJ saying Jandiroba and Carnelosi are so handsome. They are.
They are.
Oh,
they really are.
They are. And then other than that, we're gonna be back here on Wednesday for the DFS show, and then on MMA Engine, like Weezy said, main event deep dive Monday, probability Thursday. Make sure you guys are tuning into that probability show. We're going to go deep into these props, see if they are rightly priced, mispriced, and then make some money on those as well. So leave a like on the way out. We had a good amount of people in here. Subscribe to Pub Sports Radio, and we'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Good luck for UFC Vegas 54. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you.